Welcome to SBJ Spotlight. I'm John Oran, media reporter with Sports Business Journal. I'm happy to be joined today by Peter Kafka, who is a senior correspondent at Recode, host of the Recode Media podcast, and for my money, the best media reporter in the business. Peter, you've been covering media now for a quarter century. Forbes,
oh my God,
Silicon Valley Insider. I did the math.
yeah.
Recode. Your resume says you may have been, it said the word may,
Yeah.
have been the first national business reporter to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's not why I have you on. That's going to be a topic over a beer, I think.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I thought you were going to take umbrage on that and say that you got to him before I
did. No, that was back when I was covering cable. I was doing pole attachment fees at that time. I'm pretty jealous, I think.
That was a good story.
Hey, so Peter, the reason I wanted to have you on SBJ Spotlight is because you had a column, and there's a reason that I talk so highly of you, because you had a column, and I saw the headline come across on Twitter. It said, it's TikTok's world, can TV live in it? And I have to admit, I rolled my eyes at that. I'm like, oh my God, here we go, another YouTube. Is it going to take over TV? And as I read it, you really walk through how TikTok is I think the way that you described it in the column, it's like an iceberg that's mainly submerged, and it's just slowly coming at the television industry. Before we talk about your column, what got you? How did you think to write about it? What was it? What was the genesis of this column?
I started using TikTok about a year ago. It's insanely addictive. So that's the main impetus. And also,
can I tell you, I'm scared to use TikTok because I don't want to know what the algorithms say about me.
It is the only app where I have put a screen time thing on it, because I could literally spend the entire day working on it. And it's one of those things where, like, I need to be on TikTok because I'm writing about media and I should understand what's going on here. And I definitely suggest getting on it because it is less mysterious and more compelling than you think. I go back and forth with really smart people who are literally data scientists about sort of how sophisticated is TikTok's algorithm and how much is just showing me attractive women. Like, doesn't take a genius to show me attractive women and know that I'll want to watch more of it, or whatever they're showing me. And I think a lot of it has to do with the format, with the constant scrolling, and there's always another thing just to flick away. But yeah, no, everyone I talk to in tech has been consumed with it for a couple of years. And almost no one I talk to in media spends any time, who's conventional media, spends any time talking about it. To me, that's just an obvious disconnect. So I write about obvious disconnects.
Yeah. Well, you lay out a compelling case. TikTok, 1 billion monthly users. They spend 90 minutes a day on the service. TV, it's 5 hours a day. But as you say, I have kids. We have to monitor. My daughter can only spend a half hour a day on TikTok because we have to monitor that. Kids today are being programmed to watch these short snippets that are not general television, which is sort of your main point.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I think YouTube terrified everyone for a minute because they thought it was a piracy threat, and they kind of got their head around that, and then they went and ignored it. So this TikTok isn't new in terms of UGC stuff that young people like a lot. That's already been happening, but it's sort of the next iteration and bigger and more addictive than YouTube. That is why YouTube has now created its own version of TikTok called YouTube Shorts, which, by the way, are just TikToks people have uploaded to YouTube. And you see Instagram and Facebook rejiggering themselves to go after that. So they're all taking it super seriously. So if you're in the business of getting anyone under the age of 30 to look at what you're putting on a screen, you have to think about the fact that you're probably asking them to put down TikTok and watch your thing instead. So that's a very difficult task. And the second question is, all right, it's this big platform, your audience is there, you want to go engage with them and maybe promote your stuff, but to what end? Are you really helping build your brand? I talked to a bunch of people at big media companies who are happy to go there. They want to promote their stuff. It's unclear whether that's actually driving any business for them.
You had one fantastic quote from somebody that said, like, it gets great engagement when we promote our movies, but none of those kids go and actually buy a ticket to the movie.
They don't. Well, he wanted it both ways. The guy I was talking to was saying they don't. What they don't do is leave the app and then buy something on the phone. So it's, click here to buy it. That's not happening. Which, by the way, everyone tells you, oh, that's the future of TikTok is commerce. Is that because in China, their version of TikTok, everyone is buying stuff from their version of TikTok, and that's what they expect to happen here. That's not happening yet. But he's saying, look, in terms of getting it out in front of them like a billboard, incredibly effective. But as they're doing this, they're also building up TikTok, right? They're giving TikTok all this engaging content, and it's a real catch-22. I don't know what you would do if you were a media executive faced with TikTok, except what I think most of them are doing, which is punt and hope it's someone else's problem a quarter from now or 2 years from now.
Well, you also interviewed one of my favorites, Omar Raja from ESPN, who has done really amazing work with ESPN's or Sports Center's Instagram app feed and Facebook feed. And what ESPN has done with TikTok is, I think it's been really unique. They're one of the best brands, sports or not, on TikTok. Now, this isn't something where, at least not yet, and I don't see it for the foreseeable future, that they're going to be dabbling in sports rights or having live games coming in there. Why should a sports network be on TikTok? What's part of that reasoning?
For the same reason that Paramount Pictures or Netflix or anybody else wants to be there, which is, hey, pay attention to us, or one day when you put the phone down, know that we exist, so maybe you can hop over here. But I thought the ESPN example was a really good, it really underlines the sort of the issue that a big media brand has with TikTok. So Omar Raja, who gets all this stuff really well, says on TikTok, there's no point in putting a sports highlight up there. No one wants to see the dunk from the Celtics game that happened last night, or I don't think they do. What I want to do is show people just weird, interesting videos that are related to sports in some way, but they're more behind the scenes, or they're just a funny stunt. I just saw a clip of an LSU strength coach challenging his players to do some kind of crazy stunt where you sort of prop yourself up on your arm. I can't do it without breaking my wrist. And you don't have to know anything about LSU or football to go, oh, that's a pretty interesting thing I'm watching there. And Omar has done his job. He's gotten you to engage in a little bit with his content. I don't know whether that makes you more or less likely to tune into ESPN down the road. And I think everyone's just sort of, again, pushing that question down the road.
You have a line in the column where you say, so what is big media doing to counter or respond to TikTok's threat? Nothing, basically. I have a two-part question here. First of all, is it a threat? Or is it something that you think that traditional media can sort of coexist with?
Yes and yes, right? It is a threat. It's time. I think in the old days, people were telling themselves, look, there's a 2-screen experience and they can watch ESPN and play with their phone at the same time. You're really not going to watch ESPN and watch TikTok at the same time. You really can't look at both things. And I think, frankly, TikTok's more compelling than ESPN or any other network for a lot of young viewers. But you can't ignore it. And we keep ending at the same point. I don't know what the big media guys are supposed to do. I mean, at some point, maybe they'll be able to monetize their presence there. But frankly, I don't think TikTok is going to go out of its way to help them with that. I think they're frankly more interested in young individual creators than they are an established brand. It's not like the YouTube at one point in its career, at one point in its livelihood, really wanted the approval of TV and traditional media and spent a bunch of time trying to professionalize its content, and then eventually gave up and said, oh no, we'll just let people put up what they want on YouTube because that's what they want to watch. Yeah, it's a threat. It's a giant time suck. And if you want someone to pay attention to your media, you've got to convince them to stop looking at TikTok. And I don't know how you do it.
You'll know that TikTok has officially gotten on their radar screen when we start to have these half-hour compilation shows of the TikTok videos, I suppose, right?
Yep. And by the way, I'm sure we'll be seeing the show on TikTok sooner or later. You laugh.
Are you going to post it? So do you post off your
I don't. But by the way, I'm noticing a bunch of oldsters like me are getting on TikTok. There's a bunch of podcasters aimed at sort of older folks like myself that are putting stuff up. It's a pretty compelling way to introduce yourself to maybe a younger generation.
Well, it's speaking to everything that you've talked about. I live in DC. I'm a crab cake aficionado. I post a couple of crab cake reviews. I have 3 kids. They're all like, you talk too much. Stop talking. They go on for 2 minutes and they think that's too long. So it is a totally different way of doing things.
Your kids, your kids are going to complain about you no matter what. I think.
Oh, no matter what.
I wouldn't worry about
that. but usually never that consistently. I was actually somewhat impressed by that.
Fair enough. I would like to watch your crab cake reviews.
I'll shoot you the. Actually, it's an open page. So Peter Kafka, find him on Twitter. He's on Recode, and he does not have a newsletter. I like that you don't call it a newsletter, but it's a column that gets emailed to my inbox when did I read this? Was this
Wednesday morning?
Excellent. Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.